You boys know what's about to happen to you. You'd leave now.
Some consider these traits to be toxic, such as undesirable in the men of today. We consider these traits such as these not only to be desirable, but to be appreciated and celebrated. Welcome to the Toxic Male Appreciation Show, hosted by and La Reina Creole. Welcome to the safe space for the toxic male.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Reina Creole, and I am here with my wing woman, of positive fandom, and of course, this is the Toxic Male Appreciation Show, where we appreciate the heck out of you, toxic males. And we especially love talking about some of our favorite toxic male actors in cinema. So before we get started, how are you doing this fine summer afternoon, my dear?
I am doing fantastic. It's a little cold in New York, but they said it's going to warm up. So I'm ready for that 80-degree temperatures to start kicking in, and always glad to be here for Toxic Male Appreciation, Lorena.
Oh, well, indeed. I always love having you here. We always have a great time. And not only do we have a great time, but we have a great time watching this on the replay on Sundays at 1 p.m. with all of your great real-time comments and, replay comments. We so appreciate them and love that you guys are enjoying the show. So without further ado, I'm surprised we haven't gotten to this gentleman. Granted, there are a lot of you youngins out there that know him as Nick Fury predominantly, but for some of us who we're not going to tell you how old we are, we remember this dude first showing up in a movie called Do the Right Thing.
Yes. And of course, that was pretty much 1980s, Lorena, that we're talking about, and a very unique time. Of course, it's a Spike Lee joint, a film, and pretty much, just a cultural film genre that I think Spike Lee perfected in showing Black universities. Really, we don't see very many films made about them. And he decided to focus. I'm actually thinking of School Days. Do the Right Thing is the one where he's in Brooklyn.
Yes. Yes, affectionately called the Block is Hot movie.
Yes. Spike Lee decided to focus on a lot of topics and areas that people were not focusing on. And to get into one of his films, that was a big deal because Spike Lee was doing stuff that other people weren't doing. They weren't focusing on any of that. And so Spike Lee really distinguished himself. In addition to having a fantastic script, he really captured what it felt like to be a person in that time and what was going on culturally in that time period. And I love that he did that. I think that film was just like any night you would have had anywhere in New York City. Of course it was set in Brooklyn, but let's say anywhere in New York City, in that circumstance, it was real. This was exactly like they plucked it out of an actual incident that happened. And I love that he did that. And I don't know whether he or anyone else knew that would be such a film that would set such a tone, or at least capture a moment in time. That's hard to explain to people what the 80s were like. That film, I think, really does capture what it was like for a young man like Spike Lee. He starred in the film, and what Brooklyn was like at that time for so many young men. So I think it was very interesting that he decided to do that. But he also went on to do other films, continuing to capture a lot of cultural experiences in the 80s. And, Samuel L. Jackson was part of all of this. He He's also Lorena in another film. And I don't mean to digress, but in another film, he was in Goodfellas. Lorena.
He was in Goodfellas. He was in excuse me. He was in Coming to America. He was just in so many things. Well, the one that I finally got around to seeing, which was the Hateful Eight. So he's been in Tarantino films. He's been in M. Night Shyamalan films, Spike Lee films, Marvel films. This guy has been, and he's been in Star Wars. He's been in George Lucas films. Famously told George Lucas, I don't care if I have to be a potted plant. I want to be in the I want to be in the next Star Wars movie. This man has had such an illustrious career, and I know most recently, um, God, I'm drawing back. Secret, right there on the screen. Secret Invasion. That series has finally launched on over on Disney Plus. But before we get to that a little bit, gonna let you guys know a little bit about Samuel L. Jackson. So he was born in 1948 in Washington, D.C. About the Lord, he's old enough to be my dad. Good looking, very good looking. I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, he be my dad. But yeah, he's appeared in over 100 films. Die Hard with a Vengeance, Unbreakable, which I haven't seen, which I
Oh, you
heard
will
was
love it. You will.
I heard it was great before M. Night Shyamalan
Good. So good. Yeah.
kind of like veered off. And hello, Jadman Walking. See how see you right there. I can't talk today. Says howdy, good to see you. He says sorry, still at work and phone is buffering too badly on YouTube and Twitch. Have a fun show. Well, at least the replay won't buffer. We'll see that on Sunday. So glad you're here and listening to us from work. But yeah, he was in Shaft. I did see that. I did see Shaft. Had to see Shaft. Didn't see Formula 51. Saw Black Snake Moan. That was very interesting. That was a very interesting movie where he was chained to Christina Ricci, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a weird, interesting movie. And Snakes on a Plane, which I have not seen, and we need to. And
We need to watch that film.
I've heard so much about Snakes on a Plane, but he has been in so many things. I want to say, well, it's actually true. When you think of Samuel L. Jackson, when we were talking about Spike Lee films launching a lot of careers. Um, Also launched Giancarlo Esposito's career as well. This dude, got his sneakers run over and screaming and not do the right thing. But he has been in so many things, just ubiquitous. And the favorite thing that we watched, which was Afro Samurai, where he did the voice for, that's probably one of the sickest animes, because we watched it,
We
and
did.
it was just absolutely amazing. But to kind of add a little bit more color to his background, he was raised by his mother, factory worker, and his grandparents. He went to Morehouse College. Not surprising, given he was in DC, especially at that period of time in the country. Morehouse, which of course was the all male college, and then Spelman, which was the all female college out in Atlanta. I think both of those. And let's see, active in the Black student movement, of course. And yeah, became well known after 3 movies made by Spike Lee: Do the Right Thing, Mo Better Blues, and Jungle Fever. And I have to go back and again, what you were saying, Spike Lee did so much for a lot of these people's careers, especially Samuel L. Jackson and Giancarlo Esposito, also Denzel Washington, because
Yes.
he was in Mo Better Blues. Oh gosh, I'm blanking. But Wesley Snipes, because he was in Jungle Fever.
Right.
as well. And these were types of films that weren't really being made at that time by Hollywood. But these
Right.
movies that Spike Lee was making, they were literally star vehicles because other directors were taking notice of this talent and they're just like, we have to book this talent.
Yeah, he certainly Spike Lee. I don't think. I mean, he truly was what I consider an auteur because of that desire to describe what life was like for people at that time. Certainly, something that I don't see a lot of people doing today. They're not interested in trying to explain the experiences, especially of, let's say of Black men. They're not interested in seeing these experiences. I think the last film we saw like that was Moonlight, Lorena, and that won an Academy Award for Best Film. And
Hmm.
it certainly was a very unique experience, and it focused on the lives of young Black men. But Spike Lee was truly incredible talent, and he had this incredibly talented group of actors who we still see acting today. Here in this description biography, it talks about how Samuel L. Jackson's in over 100 films, and it's not a surprise for this to happen. A lot of these films that Spike Lee did, you had to have very strong male leads. Almost all of them were alpha males. I mean, he did the
Yes.
Malcolm X one, and everybody had to kind of be badass and bold and very, somewhat more aggressive. And I could even say the same thing for Do the Right Thing. I mean, Spike Lee acting as the main character in that. Wesley Snipes, I mean, that guy's definitely an alpha male. You certainly did, and it's not always easy to kind of act alongside everybody who are such strong performers. But Samuel L. seems to do that and stand, apart from a lot of them in a very unique way. He is incredibly talented, and it's just incredible what he's contributed, in those Spike Lee films, as well as in over probably 80 or 90 films outside of Spike Lee.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny because, well, not funny, haha, but it's interesting, funny, because he has done so much. This question, what is your favorite Samuel L. Jackson movie? It's just like everybody's got to ask that question because it's just like he's in so much stuff.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely Unbreakable. I thought his performance in that was very unusual, it's very different, and it was a mystery. It is a M. Night Shyamalan film, and it stars Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis, I believe. And
Yes.
it certainly is where they kind of play two opposites, and it's just absolutely remarkable what M. Night Shyamalan was trying to convey in the story, and I just loved it. I thought it was just fun and profound and very, a nice. It almost felt like an Alfred Hitchcock kind of thriller. But certainly, if you're going to have anybody play that role, you would want it to be somebody as strong as Samuel L. Jackson, and he did a remarkable job in that. Such an excellent performance.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're gonna take a little listen here, and hopefully I hit the button on this.
Mhm.
Oh my God.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
I think that's quite difficult. I think we still, when with the kids, we still quote Tasty Burger.
This is a tasty burger.
Yes!
Oh, the Pulp Fiction thing.
Yeah. I know that's
It
not.
is a tasty bit.
Yeah, I love it.
That performance and John Travolta, those two together. I mean, those performances just blow my mind. You know, like Sam in that film is a force, man.
Royale with cheese.
Yeah, with cheese.
The energy, the presence, the lines, the most
It's like
quotable
Find My
film of all
Wallet. What does it
time,
say?
The
Big man by
everything.
the
Do you
effort.
guys just have Pulp Fiction
Yeah,
parties
it
on
does.
set?
I'm gonna say yes because I wish we did.
Everybody likes that movie.
You were
Yeah,
brilliant.
no, it was a wonderful thing to do. Yeah.
Somebody
Wonderful,
serious,
wonderful, wonderful.
gentle and religious while doing all those things. It was so brilliant.
Well, allow me to retort.
Did you compare Star Wars story?
That is so real because he's done so many roles that people love. And I know for me personally, used to see him in the Spike Lee movies, but the part that made him actually break out to me was when he showed up in Pulp Fiction because Quentin Tarantino, that movie again launched a ton of careers, but it put together so many people like old school, actors mid-career, new actors. It was just like everybody was in that film, and Samuel L. Jackson's character was just something else in that movie. I Too many quotable lines in that.
It turned out to be an incredible cult classic. And maybe it's not a cult classic. Maybe it's actually even more successful than what you would call a cult classic. But everybody's still trying to capture the magic from Pulp Fiction. That was really just such a cool, offbeat kind of film. And he performed so well in it, and he brought Travolta along with him for the ride.
Mhm.
He was the leader pretty much in the film, and I loved him in it. Certainly a performance we can't ever forget.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're gonna hop over to this article here from Yahoo Entertainment because the video clip just corroborated one of the first things that I thought about when it comes to Samuel L. Jackson. And sure enough, they have his 10 best roles. So we're gonna kind of step through these roles from a toxic point of view. And
Okay.
first up, of course, is Elijah Price, aka
Yes.
Mr. Glass from Unbreakable from 2000.
So good. I saw this film, Lorena, and I love it. I think it's really one of his best performances, and it's the one that certainly does stand out to me. There's one other one, but he was incredible in this role, and you don't understand who he is initially. When you watch the film, eventually you realize who he is at the end. Certainly, it says he's about the furthest thing removed from the badass role he played in Pulp
Yeah,
Fiction.
Pulp
However,
Fiction.
this character is much more deadly than his Pulp Fiction character. So I'm just gonna let you know this one was hardcore for me. Like I said, this one felt like a Hitchcock thriller. Certainly a lot of twists and turns. I loved it. There he is holding up a comic book talking about superheroes. Certainly it's something that's meant to be provocative. It's a very provocative film. And his performance coupled with Bruce Willis's, it's kind of like a revisitation since they were both in a Die Hard film together and had great chemistry. They still have that great chemistry in this film as well. So this was definitely one of his best performances.
Hmm. So would you say that he was a toxic male in this performance?
I would say this is difficult. He's a villain. So I would say Bruce Willis was the toxic male in this one because, it's hard to describe it. If he's a bad guy, so I would say it's hard to, because he plays a villain here. He doesn't always play a villain, but he does. So this is a little different, and I hope I didn't give too much away with this one.
No. Well, I mean, it came out 23 years ago. My fault. I haven't seen it yet.
Well, he's not a good guy, and he's the type of person who wants to destroy millions of people, kill millions of people. So it's very different type of character that he's playing here versus, let's say, his Mace Windu character, who's rightful and just, which might be the polar opposite of this Unbreakable character of Eliza Prince, to give you an idea of what we're dealing with. So I would say it's hard to say this is a toxic male one. This is maybe the ultimate villain. He plays the ultimate villain here. Yes.
That is good, because when you have an actor that's so good, they're just like, man, I hate this character. Because it's just such a good, such a good villain. And as you and I both know, movies, when they've got that villain, has to be a true villain in order to provide the perfect foil for the hero. So that is, man, I have to see this. I really do.
I can't
So
wait
many
for you to
people have
see
told
it.
me about it, and I think this was at a time where I think M. Night had kind of let me down with one of his movies, so I was kind of taking a break from M. Night, but I've heard a lot of good things, so I will definitely have to check that
You
out.
won't be
And
disappointed. You're gonna love it, and I hope I've got to watch it with you. I've got to watch it with you.
okay, although it's interesting again, just showing his how he's gone from Spike Lee as a director, Jurassic Park, that was Spielberg, I believe. Die Hard with a Vengeance, I think that was John McTiernan. Was it John McTiernan? I'll have to go look. But the further he went along with their career, he started working with these amazing directors. Of course, I remember this. I loved this. The Incredibles, which in some ways sometimes is better than the Avengers. One of the films from the golden age of Pixar. To have voice talent in a Pixar film, I mean, just as important as the story. So when Frozo shows up and you hear him being voiced by Samuel L. Jackson, it is just absolutely perfect. I mean, it's like a G-rated version of um of his character from Pulp Fiction, but he's a married man, so he's trying to be able to do his superhero duties while his wife is basically, you need to be here and you need X, Y, and Z, and he's running around saying, "Honey, where's my super suit?" He's running around trying to find it, and it's so cool because you can tell, even though they bicker, that he obviously does love his wife, and his wife knows, yeah, he's got to go, but it's a pain in the butt, but this is our ritual. We're gonna bicker until he leaves. So this was a very fun role. Have you seen The Incredibles?
I have, and I loved it. Yes, I have seen it, and I loved him in it. I think certainly he is wonderful as a voice actor. In The Incredibles, you and I watched him, as you had already said, in anime, and you can't forget his voice. He's made for voice acting as well, Lorena. His voice is absolutely unforgettable, and he's wonderful in it. I mean, you could just feel the character, whenever he voices that character. I love when he does voice acting as well.
I love it. It's great. So I love this. And yes, he is quite the toxic male in this, saving people, helping his buddy save people, Mr. Incredible, since they're buddies from way back, his best man, at his wedding. And he treats the Incredibles as if they are his own family. So as you can see right here, I'm forgetting his name. I always remember Jack, but I'm forgetting this one here that he had to go and like grab and like help save. So great family movie. Great family movie. I love it. So much fun. Let's see. Of course, Zeus Carver, Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah, he was good in this role too, and of course, Die Hard. I think it's the second. It's either the second or the third Die Hard movie, where he
Yeah, it's
stars
a third one.
with Bruce Willis again. Who he will star again with another role later on down the line. But they have excellent chemistry together. And regardless of how the film performed, you can't deny how good Samuel L. Jackson is as Zeus in this film. I enjoyed it. It wasn't the easiest thing to watch necessarily. It was set in New York, and I think he did a good job with it. I don't know how popular Die Hard with a Vengeance was, but I enjoyed it. So I loved him in this role.
I loved it. I enjoyed it. I like the Die Hard movies. They're my guilty pleasure. I mean, yeah, I'll let you know. That's just the funny thing of Bruce Willis. He's walking around. I forget which borough in New York that he was walking around, but basically had a sign on it, identified him as a KKK member, pretty much.
Yes.
And Samuel Jackson's character is the one that actually helped save him. It's fun. It's not anywhere near the first one or the second one, but it's a different setting, different characters, and it was still fun. And that Lincoln Tunnel scene freaks me the heck out. That's all I'm gonna say. It just it really does. This is the guy who, look, I was just going to work that day, and I did not expect to get pulled into all of this nonsense. So some real good male bonding going on in here from like two strangers. Wonderful performance, different than what he's done before previous to this, but it was just fun. Guilty pleasure to watch.
Absolutely. And here they talk about his boisterous performance, and it is true. His persona does kind of go past the role. And I think that's perhaps why he excels also as a voice actor. You can feel the performance when he's talking. You can feel it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I keep thinking about when we were watching Afro Samurai, and just in stitches with his voice, with his voice acting. I'm like, okay, no wonder the other guy hardly said it, hardly said anything, because can you can picture the character, even though it's his voice. It's a distinctive character, but just the way that he voices and says everything with the commentary,
Absolutely.
it's something else. But yeah, I agree. That's what you need for good voice actors. They have to have a voice that's strong enough and powerful, you know, enough. Kind of like a voice larger than the skin that they're in, so to speak. This one, have you seen Django Unchained?
I have seen Django Unchained, yes.
You know what? I saw this movie literally finally this year. I have no idea why. Everyone had told me about it, and it was just something I didn't get to see. And then I guess Netflix was like, hey, you saw such and such. Maybe you want to watch Django Unchained. So I watched it. Oh my gosh. First of all, this is one of the craziest movies I've seen
Yeah,
from Quentin Tarantino, and I enjoyed the hell out of it.
it was good.
This character, wow. It's funny when he describes Stephen as the most despised Negro in cinematic history. Yeah, 100% right. I think well, cinematic, I was going to say literary, that would be the bounty hunters in Uncle Tom's Cabin, but yeah, 100% right. And he played it dead to rights, unapologetic, all of that.
Absolutely. I mean, the film, this is one of the things that I like about Tarantino, is that it was a film where he took a chance on. And it does explore themes that are uncomfortable for a lot of people to talk about. And it's very bold, and the characters are quite justified in their actions, in their own mind. So I think it's very interesting how, you had DiCaprio, who's quite justified in what he's doing. He's like, this is the law and I can do this. And his matter of fact attitude when he put that poor young girl in the ground, it's like, well, where is she? She's in the ground. And it was like something that was absolutely unacceptable, but he was fine with it. Like, it was like, yeah, whatever. I thought his performance resonated essentially how so much of this stuff was on the edge. And, nothing in the film felt like you were safe. So, even having to play this character where Samuel L. Jackson has to show a lot of refinement and hold himself back, knowing the type of person that he is and the type of actor he is, I think it's very interesting to play a character like that. But overall, the cast that was chosen to play these roles, I think, I can't remember the guy. He played the piano player as well, who was blind, Ray Charles, that actor, he was in it.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx. Yeah,
Yes.
Jamie Foxx was in there. Leonardo DiCaprio was in there. All of them.
Yes.
They did fabulous performances.
I was going to say there's a lot of toxic male in that film. And certainly looking at the characters, especially the role, like where one of the poor ladies is saying she doesn't want to be with this guy, and the man's like, no, I want to get laid tonight, and I want her. And and unfortunately she had no choice in the matter. And of course your first reaction is to say hell no, and you could see what was going to happen, or at least get a sense of what was going to happen. And that is somewhat of the essence of the toxic male, where you don't want an injustice to happen, you're going to act. And we kind of see that in that film. And I think it's very interesting approach to doing it, because it was just so difficult to even talk about or even watch, knowing what was happening. It was really, really hard to watch that, some of the things that were going. And in addition to this character, a lot of very difficult, social situations that might be maybe the most accurate version of what might have occurred on a regular basis. One guy had women in the basement, and I'm like, well, that's like serial killer stalker shit. And I'm like, oh yeah, he can do that. It's the law. He can do whatever he wants to do. Just imagine that. And then Quentin created this world, let's say in a 2-hour film, that seemed very realistic and very dangerous. The sense of danger in this was real, and constantly, he had to fight against this danger and whether he was going to act and what was going to happen, because when he had to do something, things were going to go down. It was going down. There was no turning back from this thing. And it was just absolutely amazing. A great film. Great performances. Just
Samuel L. Oh man, you're just like, he can't be that sick. Yes, he can. And great job. Great job. I mean, like you're saying, it's just, even with like research that I've done during that time period, pretty much ripped directly from that. No joke. Then of course we have Nick Fury from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Certainly one of his most charismatic roles, and of course the one that he's reigniting in what the new film or the new show that's on Disney Plus. And he's wonderful in this role. And he's very charismatic, very matter of fact. I'd want a boss like this. This is the boss that we all want. This is the person we want to be like, who knows what to do in every situation. He's amazing. This guy, he's like the ultimate, he's the ultimate, I'm not going to say mastermind, but as an agent in general, if he's part of, SHIELD and this whole thing, he might be the penultimate person who could, bring things down, and he knows exactly how to do it. And he's humble about it. He's not boastery about it. He knows when to strike, and will be very careful when he needs to strike and take a stand. So I think that he's perfect for this. He's wonderful. I love him as Nick Fury.
Yeah, I loved him as Nick Fury since he showed up in Iron Man 2. And that scene where Tony Stark has got a box of donuts sitting on top of Randy's donuts. And Nick Fury's basically reading all the reasons why he got rejected from the Avengers. Yeah, that's that sort of thing. I agree. He's so charismatic, in this role, and it's just a pleasure to watch every time he would show up in a Marvel film. The only thing that I don't like is when they revealed exactly how he lost his eye. I'm going protesting it. No, that was not how it was supposed to go down. But love him as Nick Fury, and I will say probably one of the reasons that he is so successful in this role is from all of the previous roles that he has had.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he does build off of that and make this character even more dynamic, because he has to be dynamic to be against all of these, or around these superheroes or people who are doing such extraordinary things. He does stand out. He doesn't feel like he's deficient in any way. I could almost go so far as to say that he and is it Waller, the let's say the she's not in their group, but Waller, who kind of runs, I guess, is it the Suicide Squad, if you will, Amanda.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, she might be like, I'm not going to say it's his contemporary, but she knows a hell of a lot that's going on.
Yeah, it's very analogous.
Probably more than the superheroes know. So she has all the news in the 411, and she knows everything. So it is very interesting, the notion that, for me, Nick Fury is a very similar character. And I, just like him, I like when he kind of puts people in their place and says, look, this is how it's going to be, and this is what has to happen. Okay. Now get to it, more or less. A lot of times he finds himself in that position when there really isn't anybody else who can handle the gravity of what's been going on. So he becomes that person where the weight of everybody's worries are on his shoulders. I just hope it won't break him. I hope this whole thing won't break him and we lose him to this, because I think he was happy where he was.
I would have to agree. I would. So let's see. Oh, I love this restaurant. That was one of my favorite ones from Iron Man 2. Let's see. Lazarus Woods from Black Snake Moan. Now, this was, I don't even know what kind of film to kind of call it. It's like a mixture of blues, kind of like that backwater bayou type of story, basically summarized in one sentence. And he's just like, you're probably wondering why I'm chained to this white girl right here. That was pretty much explaining what the heck that was like. I do not remember the reason why, but I do remember this film. It was just fun. He was deeply religious, feels like he needs to try and cure this girl, and it's just he's seen so much in his life that he kind of takes it upon himself with this crazy weird situation to to help her. So it was toxic in that way. It's like he felt that he could protect her, and I think that is the reason why he did wind up chaining himself to her. But it was for him, it was a protective measure for her. But people on the outside looking in are like, are you kidnapping her? What the heck is going? So that's kind of the other thing that he has to fight against. But this was good, seeing him play the guitar, seeing him as like, one of those blues players, and I think Black Snake Moan, I think it was a song that he actually played in the movie. Yeah, he did. All this comes to a head when he dusts off his old guitar and plays Black Snake Moan to his captive audience as the storm rages outside. This was actually a great, stellar blues performance by him. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. You said you didn't see this movie, right?
No, I haven't seen it. No.
Yeah, this is probably a fun one to to watch. I really enjoyed watching it. It was a good what the heck kind of movie. Then we have The Hateful Eight. Now, did you see this film?
No, have you?
I saw part of it. Fell asleep on it because I was tired and mad. I fell asleep on it. Has some of the best dialogue in this film. I mean, if you love westerns, you're just gonna love this. All-star cast. You have Major Marquise Warren. He's a Civil War veteran, and they're very clear about kind of like how the times, have have changed. One of the opening scenes is he stops this stagecoach. He wants to get a ride, but he's like, you got to check with the guy who's in the stagecoach. He's another bounty hunter. And I think was it Jeff Bridges? He's a bounty hunter. He's got his bounty chained to him, and they're kind of talking, oh yeah, I know that. And you got that letter from Lincoln, and his captor yells some kind of racial epithet, and Jeff Bridges just, what'd you say? And he's looking like, dang, you really gonna do that? He was like, you gonna do that to a woman? He's like, she ain't no woman, she's a murderess. It's like, oh, okay. The dialogue it's just the dialogue between him and Bridges. At least I believe it was Jeffrey. Either way, the dialogue in this movie was so good. I have to go back and watch it. But he's one of these characters who he's living at a time where the norms are changing, and there are people who are changing with the times, people who are refuse to change with the times, and some people who are trying to figure out just what the heck is going on. So he's a great character in this, and I've heard great things about this film, and I'm almost embarrassed. I'm just now going to see it. Man, it came out in 2015.
Wow.
It's beautifully shot. Beautifully shot. Absolutely beautifully shot. And yes, he is toxic. He's very toxic. Although he kind of changed his mind and is like, oh, that's a woman. No, it's not. She's a murderess. He's like, oh, okay, all right. Well, we got that out the way. But that was awesome. It's such a great film. Oh
yes,
Mr. Senior Love Daddy. You know that's a toxic name right off the bat.
I think, like as we said before, and we were talking about Spike Lee's movies and how he chose to capture that moment in time in really cultural history and it is specifically in New York. It is New York, and these sort of grassroots. I'm not going to call it. Maybe he's not grassroots. Maybe he was actually from a larger radio station. But for all practical purposes, at that time, you had radio stations that played certain types of music, and that's all they played. It wasn't necessarily a mixture in the 1980s. That wasn't the reality. If you wanted to listen to rock, you listened to this station. If you wanted to listen to R&B, you listened to that station. If you wanted to listen to the news, you listened to NPR. Like, there were very specific stations that had very specific types of programming. And this character, you could see him at very specific types of programming that dealt with issues in the Black community. And I thought it was wonderful to see this because, as I said before, there was nobody else making movies that were capturing the cultural experience of what it was like to be Black in Brooklyn at that time. But he also captured the experience of what it was like to be white in Brooklyn at that time. So it was very interesting what happened. And all of these characters played such a big role in the cultural experience. So whereas today you might never see something like this unless you went on YouTube and you queried it. When you turn on the radio, in the 80s, you didn't know, unless you were actually at your radio station, you could hear anything. There was, it was pretty much, that was it for a lot of us. It was just the radio, and that was it. Whatever city you were in, you were going to hear what that person was going to say. So I think it's very interesting how important roles, and you'd mentioned to me the other day, Lorena, how you used to listen to Wendy Williams and what a big time radio personality she was for almost 20 years. I can't remember the station, but Angie Martinez, a lot of these ladies who were on the radio, really big deals on the radio, and personalities. I'm trying to think of Imus in the Morning, all of these individuals who people would listen to every single day. And they were the ones, they were pretty much like the YouTube personalities of today, if you will. And they had millions of listeners. I mean, everybody in the city, at that time, there was nothing else to listen to. So you were listening to that. You picked a particular show and you listened to that in the morning or whatever time you enjoyed it. And it was a big deal. Those broadcasting things were a big deal. But also those individuals, and especially in a story or in a movie that's trying to give a message, which this was, to behave properly, to have respect for other people. I think it was very interesting. to bring in
Yes.
all those characters, because at that time, I think the notion of behaving badly was something that our elders, when we were younger, would be considered completely unacceptable, and they just wouldn't have it. They wouldn't have it. Like that would have been something that they were like, no, that's not going to happen. I can't say that today necessarily, because we've seen so many outrageous things happen, and some of those outrageous things on purpose. So certainly there's been a shift in values and a shift in what people are willing to see and put up with. At that time, a lot of what we're seeing now would be considered garbage, and would have been tossed to the side. Certainly this character would have tossed a lot of things to the side and kind of been a conscience for a lot of people.
Absolutely, because that's what he was. Not to cut you off, but I know that's what I saw his character as in Do the Right Thing. He was the conscience of, people, we need to do this, we need to do that. He would make the social commentary, trying to like people, we need to just, he basically said, y'all need to chill out.
Yes.
And he was, I remember that because it was on the tail end of just, you could tell there was just so much stuff that was building up. And he was so good with this. I totally agree with you. It's like he's a personality where, yeah, like those radio personalities of of back in the day, and this type of personality whenever you see movies about certain DJs and things like that. This is pretty much what they're talking about.
I miss it. I think that we lost a lot because of this. And what was great about it was that nobody was forcing you to go to a specific channel. So you had to, on your own, go to a particular channel if you wanted to, or use the dial and go across, or press the button and digitally go across. Whereas with YouTube, I'm not knocking YouTube. I mean, goodness gracious, I'm not knocking YouTube, but it tries to guide you. YouTube tries to guide you, whereas you had to guide yourself when it came to looking at radio stations and what you wanted to listen to. No one tried to guide you. The dial wouldn't automatically pop up on another station like what YouTube does with its algorithm. And I don't fault it for that, because that's what they wanted to do to add variety or whatever. But I kind of miss being able to just, go free and not be influenced by the producers of the work and even the networks necessarily.
Absolutely. So let's go on to our second one, Ordell Robbie from Jackie Brown. Oh, I remember this.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a wonderful role, and it was absolutely perfect. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm just so glad that he was able to play this role, because a lot of these actors' careers, they wish they could get something like this or have roles like this. Samuel seems to pick roles that are just absolutely spectacular, and he just shines in something like this. I loved him in this.
I did, and I just loved him along. I swear my brain's not working today. My brain is not working today. With him and Pam Grier.
Yes.
Loved those scenes between the two of them. It was like the blaxploitation movie I'd never seen, but I knew I needed to have in my life. And that is pretty much what this film was. Unapologetically loved it. That throwback back, to the 70s. Samuel L. Jackson's character were just like, yeah, this is a type of role that you love to play. And he played it absolutely to the hilt. Again, another villain. another villain, but loved seeing him in a movie basically based on an Elmore Leonard novel, because I love all the movies made on like Elmore Leonard books, I absolutely love. So this is great. Love seeing this. If you haven't seen Jackie Brown, you need to see it.
Oh goodness. And I'm guessing the next one is Pulp Fiction.
Oh, it probably is. I bet you. Check it out. Yep. Jules Winfield, Pulp Fiction from 1994. I'm trying to figure out why this role sticks out the most. It's like, is it that it was in a Tarantino film that was full of a bunch of all-star actors, or is it because he just took this role and injected his personality into it, and with his delivery it was just so darn memorable, like that character actor who has this bit part but is so memorable you can't forget about it.
Yeah, there's two things to me about this role that stand out. And the first one is that he almost comes across like Morgan Freeman in this role. Um, a wise individual. He's a gangster, a hitman, but he comes across as a wise individual. And you can't help but listen. I mean, you realize that you're watching a hitman movie, but as you're watching it, you're almost as engrossed in what he's going to say next, words of wisdom, as his actions. And, that's very rare to be equally engrossed by both of those things. And John Travolta playing off of it, John Travolta playing off of that, responding to him is very funny because I think that the John Travolta's character wants to be as cool as Samuel L. Jackson's character, and maybe that's his ultimate goal. They're working together, but the notion is that perhaps he sees himself being on the same level as Samuel L. Jackson, but he's not quite there yet. And that may or may not be true. I mean, we've seen a few other groups of men, like in Bruges, which was the Colin Farrell's pairing with I can't remember the other actor, and they play two hitmen in that show. And which is kind of, it's not exactly like Pulp Fiction, but it's been compared to it, where you're kind of interested in the rapport between these two men and their friendship. It suddenly becomes very interesting and something that you want to know more about, and maybe even the thing you care most about in the film. So I think that that's very interesting. I think the focus on men is also very appealing, and what men can do, how they can, have a huge impact on things. They're driving the story. They're the ones who are kind of making the story happen. And it's so apparent there. And regardless as to whether someone else told them to do this or they decided on their own they're going to do this, they do feel like they're masters of their own fate, which the other characters don't feel like. So that is something that I think is very interesting about the film and about Samuel L. Jackson in this film.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's like these guys are just rolling around doing the jobs, that they have to, that they have to do. And speaking of, Samuel L. Jackson character, Jules is holding that thing together, because when he accidentally points the gun and in the back seat was talking to the kid, and we did not expect for him to have his head blown off.
Yeah.
And John Travolta's character is freaking out. What are we gonna do? He's like, "Yeah, we gotta do. What are we gonna do? Don't worry, we'll fix it." He's like freaking out.
It's the drug addict kid, right? Is it the drug addict kid?
Was it the drug? No, it was.
Okay, so it was a
It was the college kids. They owed the money.
Yes. Okay.
One where they rolled up in there, and he's like, "What?" He's like, "Say what again?" Yeah, and he was trying to talk. He took one of them with him.
That's right.
And he just casually put the gun over. So anyway, and then it went off. And they didn't know what to do. And he's trying to hold it together, but John Travolta's character is like completely, off the, just off the reservation. And when he finally calls to figure out what's going to do, oh, you sending the cleaner? That's all you had to say. All right, cool. It's cool now. But how he's just kind of he's cool, and even when stuff kind of goes sideways, he freaks out a little bit, but he's still kind of like, okay,
hold it
we
together,
got this handled. I only know one verse, and he likes to recite it before he smokes somebody. It's just something else. I absolutely this is still one of my favorite movies that he's in this Pulp Fiction.
He is wonderful in that. And I think that, it's a role that a lot of people are trying to emulate, but it's hard to emulate it because of the elements of the movie, as I was just talking about a few minutes ago. And now I know that this was the top 10, but there's one more role that I would add to this. And it's from a movie called The Protege. And you've heard me talk about this movie because I've talked about how hot Michael Keaton was in it. But it stars Samuel L. Jackson as a star in the film, along with Maggie Q. And what happens is, oh my God, Reina, you would love this film. I'm like getting chills about it. It starts off where Maggie Q is orphaned and he takes her under his wing, and he's like a hitman bounty hunter kind of thing. And he trains her. And you would love it because he plays a good guy in that film, more or less. And different things happen to him. And I think it's another one. He plays a character called Moody. There he is, a legendary assassin called Moody. And he trains her. And then at some point, I'm not going to say what happens, but let's just say something happens to him. And she has to figure out what to do next. But it's interesting, the impact that he has on her life. And even her backstory is interesting, but he himself is quite a mysterious character. And really, it's just absolutely fantastic, his role here. This is also another role I feel like he redefined himself, somewhat more like a Nick Fury style role. But this one also is where they are living quite on the edge, where something happens. Don't worry. We got our plans in place. Don't you worry about anything. We have it all worked out. Yep, have no fear. So
well, it's on Prime Video, so I'm gonna have to check that one out.
You're gonna love it.
Thank you for the recommendation. That is, I like that. Like that.
It deserves much better than a 6.1 out of 10. It deserves much better than that.
Yeah, some of these people don't know what it is that they're talking about. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. However, some of them is like crazy. Okay, well, last one to kind of talk about before we wrap up the show. Of course, Samuel L. Jackson is starring in Marvel's Secret Invasion, now airing over on Disney Plus. Have you had a chance to check out the first episode?
I have had a chance to check out the first episode, and it was fantastic. I mean, this is classic Nick Fury that we've been craving to see for so long. And he does have a complement of other characters and actors, but he can do the show solo, Lorena.
Oh,
he
yeah.
can do this shit solo. He doesn't even need anybody else. I mean, I know that there's a support, and I'm like, he doesn't need any of these people. He could just be Samuel L. Jackson starring in this, and it's just him. And it would be equally good. Certainly what I've seen so far has been great. I haven't covered the Skrulls as close as I could. And it's not necessarily the easiest thing to follow because Secret Invasion does have a sense of, the body snatchers feel to it. However, he handles this thing so well. And I think this is going to be a big hit for him.
I saw the first episode. Not sure what I think just yet. It's one of those where I'm kind of like, I kind of felt like the beginning did more exposition than it should have in a way. I was kind of like, don't tell us that, need to show us that. So jury's still out for me on this one. I kind of want to watch the first episode again to get like a better immersion. But so far it's okay. Of course, Samuel L. Jackson, he kills it. He kills it pretty much in anything, in anything that he's in. The rest of them, they need catch up. But it's something that I've been looking forward to seeing more so than the other Marvel things from Disney Plus. So it has more of, I want to say, like a Cold War feel to it. The reluctant hero, the conversation between his character, and I cannot believe I'm drawing a blank.
Olivia Colman?
Yes. That conversation cracked me the heck up. It was It was so good. I said that was fun to watch. That was indeed fun to watch.
She
But
read him.
yes, she did. She did, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful, beautiful scene. But like that, I'm like, I need to do another watch of it. But it is definitely nowhere near the same territory as She-Hulk. Yes, I'm going to say that.
Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah.
don't even want to mention that in the in the same in the same breath. But I am looking forward to seeing where the particular show for the show goes, and we shall see. So as always, folks, thank you so much for being with us, and of course, you definitely need to subscribe to her here of Positive Fandom. And my dear, what do you have going on?
I have actually a show right after this. I'm going to be watching Gettysburg on Positive Fandom.
Ooh.
I also have on Friday, I have a show with you. You and I are going to be doing a watch party for Outlander episode 2 for season 7. Also, we
Mhm.
have PGS Treks coming up. I've got a Blade Runner interview on Saturday, and on Sunday, I'm going to be doing my Sunday brunch show at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and of course, our Ladies of the PGS show on Monday on the Burr Network at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Yes, always love being on Ladies of the PGS on the network with you on Monday nights. As for myself, let's see what day it is. Okay, so since this is airing live on Twitch, I'm going over to WW Pro Live's show for the second hour over on YouTube, so you can join me there. Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, it is going to be an Indiana Jones kind of day at the Disney Studios Park. We're going to go check out the Indiana Jones stunt show. We're going to check out the Den of Destiny pop-up bar that's there. It's got props and everything, and we'll shop a little bit for some indie gear. We'll see if we can find me a fedora when we're there on Saturday. And of course, Saturday evening watch party with her and myself. We are going to be watching 2001: A Space Odyssey starring Gary Lockwood. I cannot wait. I haven't seen this movie in I don't know how long, but I know all the music because it's all classical music. Very hard to forget with that. And of course, Sunday 1 p.m. Eastern, the replay of Toxic Male Appreciation, and at 8 p.m. Eastern, Welcome to Florida show. Crazy Florida fun, videos, laughs. We just enjoy it. So, with that said, folks, we are going to wrap up this particular episode of Toxic Male Appreciation. We certainly do hope that you enjoyed it. And of course, we will see you next time. Bye.